I mean, there's already plenty of interest points.
A full tank of gas.
All right, here we go, y'all.
Okay, guys.
Half pack of cigarettes.
Triple glasses.
Security surrounding me.
All right, here we go.
But only to protect you from the swarming fans.
Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. We are here on MFSN. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here as always with Casey Scheinvold, Vlad to the Bone, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I'm on location at the Cosmopolitan Sportsbook in Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm here watching sports, betting on sports. I'm going to gamble blackjack. I'm playing craps. I'm playing poker. I'm here the whole weekend. I'm Ross the Boss. It's going to be unbelievable.
I was going to ask where on earth you were, but you already explained it. So listen, we're here to talk NFL. This is a live NFL talk show, and we're going to talk about lots of different things. But the main thing we want to talk about is the fact that we have our rankings out. It's time. People are drafting. They're getting ready for the season. They're making trades. I made 2 dynasty trades today.
Unbelievable. Tell us what you did.
Oh, my God. Listen, I can't believe did you see, Casey? I traded Patrick Mahomes.
No.
You didn't see it. Oh, my God. I traded Patrick Mahomes for 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and a third, I believe. And I got Trey Lance.
Holy cow.
That was quite a haul. But listen.
Wow. It's a huge trade.
And also, our new website's up. And why don't you tell us how to get to our new website?
Let's do that. It's www.mfsn.tv. We've got our rankings. We got my rankings. We got Casey's rankings. We got Ross's rankings, and it's all compared with Yahoo rankings. So you can figure out where we all stand. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today is what outliers do we see in each other? We're going to kind of make fun of each other. We're going to poke some fun at each other, or maybe we give each other some credit. Before we do any of that, though, let's talk about how the landscape has shifted, because in the NFL, we know the landscape shifts all the time. We've had some big things happen. Travis Etienne out for the season with a Lisfranc injury. That's a big deal. I also traded for him in Dynasty because I am terrible this year, so I might as well just bring in all the people that are going to be good.
Well, you're terrible once you traded Patrick Mahomes.
Well, that's true. I got a lot worse. Well said.
You're aiming for that first pick.
Guys, let's talk about what else has changed this week. Casey, what's on your mind about the shifting landscape? And it could be big or small things. People need to know this in terms of rankings that happen.
Well, obviously the Etienne injury is huge because Etienne was the first round pick for Jacksonville out of Clemson. They thought he was going to supplant James Robinson, kind of last year's Cinderella running back early on in the season. So that's huge for James Robinson owners. And I happen to own him in Dynasty, so I'm excited about that. But I think the biggest winner this week was Damian Harris in New England when Bill Belichick decided to trade Sonny Michel to the Los Angeles Rams to be kind of in a running back by committee with Darrell Henderson Jr., who might also now lose some value. I think that's kind of the biggest trade that's changing the landscape because Harris is now the clear number 1 in New England. And so that's going to give him, it bumps him up in my rankings. Certainly I had him in the mid to low 20s. This moves him, I think, into the high teens because Sonny Michel's a goal line back and it hurts Darrell Henderson because I think that's somebody who's going to vulture a lot of scores from him.
Well, it's interesting because I had Damian Harris pretty high to begin with, but not at the level that would be. I kind of ranked him as if Sonny Michel wasn't even there. I have to say, a little bit of a diss on Sonny Michel.
Yeah,
but it is how I ranked him. And the other guy that makes some gains from this is Ramondre Stevenson, who is a running back,
the number 2 in New England now. Yeah.
And he's making lots of gains. Now, let's see. I'm looking at the rankings now because this is what we use it for. We're going to look Damian Harris. Interestingly, it looks like Ross and I had him exactly rated the same, the 24th best running back. Casey had him at 26. Yahoo has him at 26. The question is, how far up does he go now?
I still think New England is like a village of running backs. I mean, they have White. They also have Michelle's gone, but they have Stevenson, the rookie from Oklahoma, who's getting a lot of carries in preseason that people are excited about. And they also have Harris, and they have some other guy too. I've got his name, but it's like a village. It's not a committee. It's like
they have James White. They always have James White.
They have James White, but there's some. But again, I don't trust Belichick when it comes to starting running backs. He's always messed me up in the past. He never starts the right guy. He never gives you the right amount of carries. And Cam Newton, last week I thought it was 70% Cam Newton's going to start. Now, guys, I got to tell you, I have it like 55-45 that Cam Newton's going to start. He's been out for 5 days. They scrimmaged the Giants a couple days ago, Case, your team. He threw like 19 completions in a row. Matt Jones did. Not that Cam Newton. Cam Newton was not allowed to come to practice.
And Daniel Jones looked terrible.
Daniel Jones looked terrible to quote Charles Barkley. So what I'm saying now is Matt Jones could get that starting job, and the players are respecting him now. The players like him. I feel that, especially from a huge program like Alabama is a place where it's almost like a professional team. If you play at Alabama, you're ready for the NFL. I mean, it's night and day. It's not like playing at North Dakota State like Trey Lance did. This is a real program.
Yeah, but
I think what?
Alabama doesn't churn out quarterbacks that well, so I think we need to pump the brakes on that.
Ever hear of Joe Namath? Joe Namath isn't a quarterback.
Yeah, 50 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Like,
didn't know.
Wasn't Super Bowl 50 years ago when he made the guarantee?
We're looking for the next Otto Graham. That's what we're looking for.
I mean, AJ McCarron doesn't exactly exude confidence.
AJ McCarron's out for the year, and that broke my heart
and
too.
Listen, Forrest Gump went to Alabama. He didn't end up in the pros.
But he wasn't a quarterback. He wasn't a quarterback.
He's also not real.
Oh, it's not real. Okay, I didn't know.
All right, guys, let's do this. We're gonna go to the rankings, but we're gonna go to QBs first. And one thing I wanted to say about QBs in terms of what's happening now is there's a lot of not controversy, but there's races happening right now.
Yeah, they're starting to name starters.
I mean,
Trevor Lawrence was named.
Teddy Bridgewater was just named the starter. What are we going to say, Ross? Who did you say before that?
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, no big shock, was named starter. My new fantasy name, which I love, Drew Lock and Loaded. You like that name? Very funny name. I also like Corn Chubb. That's another name I might use in my fantasy team this year. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm thinking of fantasy names. But to go back to our subject, I mean, they've been announcing starting quarterbacks. The big one they have not announced is, I'm telling you, is Matt Jones and Newton. I don't know when they're going to do it.
They named Andy Dalton in Chicago, did they not, for game one?
As far as I know, yes. But listen, I mean, how long is he going to be starting?
3 weeks.
Games.
Yeah, exactly. Justin Fields is the guy to own there, obviously, but it does bump him down your rankings. He's not going to be there so much. And by the way, if we're talking about fantasy names, you're not allowed to name your team after Chubb because I'm doing that. My team name is Sloth Loves Chubb.
It is. But Porn Chubb.
And I have to come up with I have to find another George Thorogood song to name my football team after. Vlad to the Bone is a great name, but that's very sports specific. So I don't know many other George Thorogood songs, but I'm going to go through his catalog and figure one out.
All right, guys.
I'll find some names for you.
We're going to look into George Thorogood. Everyone knew we were going to on the show, but if you are looking at our rankings, again, it's www.mfsn.tv. We're very excited to see our rankings, and this will help a lot of people figure out where to rank people. These are going to change, by the way, and we're going to have them coming out every week. So we can look back, let's say in week 6, we can look back and be like, oh my God, you had, like, look, I have Trevor Lawrence ranked the 20th best quarterback. Now he's going to be a starting quarterback. Is it too low? These are things to argue about. So guys, let's pick on each other a little bit here.
Okay.
When you look at my rankings or Ross's rankings, Casey, what jumps out at you about the quarterbacks? Is there any one that you're like, wait a minute, why is that one ranked there?
Well, I think, I'm a Matt Stafford fan, and I think his move to LA is good for him for the Rams. But Ross has him ranked number 6 over the likes of Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, these other kind of big names who outscored him crazy last year. So that's the one in Ross's that kind of jumps out to me the most. Dan, your rankings, I don't actually see, Joe Burrow, as we like to call him, Joe Burrow, ranked number 9 is pretty high for me. I know he's got those big wideouts, but he doesn't have a great offensive line. To rank him in the top 10 when he only played half a season in the NFL for me is pretty hard.
Yeah, I could see it. All right, Ross, how about you? When you look at mine and Casey's rankings, what are the ones that jump out at you?
Well, he doesn't know our rankings.
I don't have the rankings.
You don't have it.
But let me tell you something.
Defend Matt Stafford. Go.
Matt Stafford, the Rams offense is 20 times better than the Detroit offense. Matt Stafford has every passing record possible in Detroit. And I feel the Rams are going to have a huge year. Robert Woods is going to be unbelievable. Kupp's going to be unbelievable. Even Higbee's going to be great. And even Darrell Henderson's going to catch at least 65, 70 passes out of that backfield. So I think Stafford's going to have a great year in stat-wise and fantasy-wise. He'll be in the top 10 for sure. Trust me. That's a promise.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the rankings, and Casey and I both have Aaron Rodgers as our 4th best quarterback. You have him 8th.
What do I have?
Why?
I just feel another year. He's getting older. I'm worried about him. I just think all this stuff during the offseason may affect how he plays out there. We'll see. I'll probably move him up a couple spots since I rated him, but I'll keep him at 8. I'll keep my ratings until week 1's over with. We'll see what happens. The offensive line for Green Bay is awful. They're not going to give him much time.
Bakhtiari is every year rated as the best left tackle in the NFL. So his blind side is pretty well protected.
Their offensive line is not good. The only good thing about Rodgers is the Green Bay defense is awful, so he'll be doing a lot of throwing the ball.
And he still has Devontae Adams, Tanyan, and Aaron Jones.
Well, listen, we've got there's a couple questions in the air. The questions like Casey has Dak Prescott as the 3rd best quarterback. That's a bold ranking, but it also could easily work out. He was on his way to it last season when he got injured. And we've got Jalen Hurts is an interesting situation. I don't know what's going to happen with him. For people who drafted Deshaun Watson, by the way, it looks like you're very much out of luck. He does not look like he's playing the season. Do you guys agree with that?
He has not.
I don't think he's going to play.
He shows up to practice, but he doesn't even throw any footballs. He just sits there and watches the first quarterback.
I'll tell you who I'm looking
Taylor.
at.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who I'm looking at who's clearly on the rise is Zach Wilson. I did not really see that coming, which is a funny thing to say about such a high draft pick in the NFL. But and look, it's still preseason, so who knows? But
Ross, riddle me this: you have Ben Roethlisberger ranked 14th. This is somebody we've been
so much crap about.
We've been railing on him for his lack of ability to throw downfield or hit receivers in timing routes. How do you have him as the 14th ranked quarterback?
He'll be in the top 15.
You have him ahead of Trevor Lawrence, ahead of Matt Ryan.
It seems like Casey
ahead of Baker Mayfield.
Seems like you and I listen to Ross more than he does.
Ben Roethlisberger has three really good receivers. He has Johnson, Claypool, and Juju. So those guys are going to get their yards, and Ben's going to be the one that throws the ball. He's healthy. Last year he wasn't. And remember, Pittsburgh, they won their first 11 games until they lost X amount in a row. But I feel that Ben, his offensive line should totally give him some protection. 14 is a good spot for him. I hold up to that.
All right. Well, listen, it's not. There's going to be certain variation. 14 isn't super bold, but it is interesting that you're the one who's talking so much smack about him, and you had him ranked high.
Well, remember, if he's 14, he's not going to be starting in most fantasy leagues. So he's a guy you take him as a backup. You even have a backup. I don't even want a backup.
I'd much rather have the upside of Trevor Lawrence, though. That's what I'm saying. So listen, we're going to move to running back now. I have to say this. Every time I look at my own rankings, I'm like, what? I didn't remember putting him there.
I do too.
This is really something to think about as a fantasy sports player. Your rankings change every day. Don't think you think the same thing. you start to think about it and you're like, oh, Joe Mixon, his offensive line is terrible. I'm going to downgrade him. And then another day you're like, well, wait, he's one of these bell cow backs who's going to get the ball all the time. It just depends on what you're looking at. So, all right, now Ross, I know you can't see the rankings, but who are two guys that you are pretty high on this year that you think you're higher than we are on them? And then I'll tell you if you're
Antonio Gibson. He
all right, that's one guy 3 times.
He's going to have he will have a huge year. He's going to be unbelievable this year. And then of course I have big Derrick Henrys. I think I have everything else the same as you guys almost.
Somebody you're a lot higher than us on, Ross, is Myles Gaskin.
What rate did I take Myles?
You put him 16. Dan has him 25. I have him 22.
I feel Miami's going to be running the ball a lot. I also like Malcolm Brown. I don't know if he breaks my top 30, but if I have Gaskin, I'm sure I have Brown on the same team. But Gaskin's going to have a good year. Miami's going to be running the ball a lot with Tua as quarterback. So I think Miami's running game is going to be out there doing very well.
Listen, I'm gonna sing your praises in a certain way, Ross, because you think differently than other people quite a bit. I mean, let's look at Aaron Jones, for example.
Yeah.
I have him as the 6th overall running back. Casey has him at 8. You have him at 13. You really do. You're thinking.
I told you, I'm worried about Green. I'm worried about Green Bay's offensive line. I looked at their offensive line, and I study offensive lines. I think it's a very important part of fantasy, and a lot of people don't pay attention to it. And I'm worried about Aaron Jones. And I don't know how well he'll do this year just because he's not going to get the blocking he did last year.
All right, but he's still going to be catching passes, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be taking a lot of heat off him. I think there's no way he doesn't crack the top 10.
So, Daniel.
I also like A.J. Dillon, too. I like his backup. A.J. Dillon has another year with his belt, and I think he'll do well.
All right, Dan, you know what I'm gonna ask you about. You've bucked almost every pundit out there who's ranked running backs, and you put Christian McCaffrey as the 3rd highest rated running back this year, when he's the consensus well, I can't say consensus because you disagree. He's by an overwhelming majority of rankers. He's ranked as the number 1 overall fantasy football player. You have not only not number 1 overall, but not even number 1 in the running backs.
Yep. Okay. So listen, here, it's all about health. If it was guaranteed that Christian McCaffrey was going to play 16 games, I'd rank him number 1.
17 games.
17 games. Thank you. I would rank him number 1. The chances of him doing that, I think, are actually pretty low. Now, meanwhile, the only guys that I ranked ahead of him are Derrick Henry, who ran for over 2,000 yards last year. So this is no slouch. And Alvin Kamara, who scored 7 touchdowns in 1 game. So listen, I know that's only 1 game, but he's always been a huge guy in terms of fantasy. I think the Saints are going to be a lot better than people think. I legitimately would take those 2 over him.
So let me ask you, I mean, not to change topics. I want to talk about the Saints for a second. You just said that you think they're going to be a lot better. I think the collective expectation is that Jameis Winston is named the starter there because of the upside and because of how well he has done. When I look at our rankings for Jameis Winston, you have him at 28. Ross has him at 29. I didn't even rank the guy.
Listen.
I didn't rank that guy.
I did not say Jameis Winston would be significantly better than people think.
Okay,
but he is a guy who can get the ball to people decently, and Alvin Kamara is a perfect beneficiary of it. I don't have the Saints wide receivers way up there. It's Kamara.
And Dan, if I can point out, your boy Christopher Atwater is on the chat.
Oh,
on YouTube, and he was pointing out that Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones are all Alabama grads, and they don't suck.
That's true. Well, he says Jalen Hurts doesn't stink, Tua doesn't stink, and Mac Jones is going to be good.
Right. So he says they all don't.
I'm inclined to agree with him. He also
and Jalen Hurts, though.
I agree with you, Atwater.
By the way, he finished his career at Oklahoma. And when he was at Alabama, he wasn't considered an NFL prospect. So he had to go to Oklahoma to become a quarterback prospect.
No, he was a freshman. They thought he was going to be an NFL player. He was unbelievable. I disagree.
Let's talk about just a couple of other running backs of note. I think An interesting guy is Najee Harris. How good is the Pittsburgh line at this point? Is Roethlisberger going to take some heat off him? But he's also such a talented runner.
So Pittsburgh's going to be running ball heavy. They're going to be a heavy running team this year. And Harris is going to get 80% of the carries, maybe even 90%. He can catch the ball from the backfield in Alabama. He was making one-hand catches like they were nothing, like Odell Beckham. So I feel Najee Harris will have 12 to 14 touchdowns rushing. Hear that, Casey Scheinfeld? And I know he's Alabama grad, and I feel he'll have at least 1,200, 13 yards rushing. He's going to have a great year. He should be drafted in the mid-second round. Maybe third round, but I have in the mid-second round.
Yeah, look, I'm not sitting here saying Alabama running backs are bad. Only Cleveland picked a bust at Alabama running back when they went with Trent Richardson, number 3 overall.
It still hurts.
Wow.
But I mean, Derrick Henry, he's a Tide alum, so they certainly have proven their case there. I wanted to ask about Saquon Barkley, because he seems to be, as a Giants fan, obviously, and a Pennsylvania guy, and he's a Penn State Penn State player. He's kind of a controversial first or second round pick because of the injury.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, this is the Christian McCaffrey treatment, but maybe even more so because he's fresh off a bigger injury. The interesting thing is, and this is what I mean about how you change rankings all the time. I looked and I was like, I have Saquon Barkley ahead of Jonathan Taylor. That's weird because in our draft, we know I took Jonathan Taylor over Saquon Barkley.
When Saquon Barkley was on the board. Yeah.
Not only that, I had Nick Chubb as the number 5 overall back and didn't pick him either because Travis Kelce was on the board. Now,
and you even named your team after Nick Chubb.
I know.
And didn't take him when you had the chance.
I didn't think I was going to be able to have that choice, but hey. Now, Chris Atwater says, is this whole show about Sweet Home Alabama? Love it. Listen, it might be. They're churning out a lot of good football players.
Hey, I was born in Tuscaloosa, so I'm always happy to talk about Alabama.
My God, the things I did not remember that.
I did not know that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
may have told me
know that about Casey Scheinfeld.
My father was in school there for his PhD when I was born.
I don't know what this means, but if you have told me and I blocked it out, I don't know what that is. All right, guys, let's move to wide receiver. Casey, I'm going to let you comment first on mine and Ross's rankings. Then Ross, I know you can't see the rankings right now, but you can talk about the guys that you think are undervalued. We've got a big difference in valuation on some of these.
Yeah, I see Dan is not a big fan of Stephon Diggs. He's number 3 in Yahoo. You have him at number 8. You're also not a huge Calvin Ridley fan. You have him at 7, but you are.
Listen, he was ranked 4th and I ranked him at 7. Like that to me isn't as big a difference as 3 to 8.
Yeah, and you and I are both big fans of CeeDee Lamb, and Ross apparently is not.
Yeah, Ross, you have him at
who I drafted.
Right.
Isn't this always the way? Listen,
guys, I'm worried about Dak Prescott. It was just because of Dak's injury. As you know, I watched that show on HBO every week, and I think we did the ratings that week when Dak was even throwing the ball. So I probably was Dak. I was worried about Dak. Because if Dak does not play for the Cowboys this year and Ben DiNucci's going to be the starter, there's going to be a major problem.
Yeah, so this was a fear ranking. This was
fear ranking. Yes.
All right, here's another interesting one. Robert Woods. Okay, Ross has him at 10. Casey has him at 15. I have him all the way down at 23. I can tell you why if we want to start there, and then you guys weigh in on why you think he's high.
Go for it. To me, first.
The Rams have so many different weapons, and the way that their coach employs all of these different receivers, I've just never seen one emerge in a way that would make them likely to be top 12 or even top 18. If you look at the numbers, I'm actually slightly wrong about that. I know that, but the expectation, I just think it's not likely that they're going to get out of, top 15 at all.
Well, my thinking is, he's playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with, right? Nobody disagrees that Matthew Stafford is an upgrade over Jared Goff, even though they're both former number 1 overall picks. And B, like this team, if it was going to run the ball, was going to be Cam Akers' team. Darrell Henderson was going to always be the change of pace back or the pass catching back. So there's got to be they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think Sean McVay enjoys throwing the ball more than running the ball. But you're right. They have weapons all over the field. But to justify a top 15 ranking, he really only needs to average probably 70 to 75 yards a game and nearly a touchdown a game. That'll give him over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. And that is plenty to be a top 15 wide receiver.
Okay, but why him versus Cooper Kupp, for example? I mean, isn't it a bit of a crapshoot between the two?
It is a bit of a crapshoot. I see Cooper Kupp as more the possession. Maybe in a PPR, I would move Cooper Kupp up a little bit more. I see him more as the kind of the professor of route running. So he'll do more of the route tree, whereas Robert Woods to me seems like the more explosive receiver. And that's what I was looking at.
All right. I'm just scrolling through to see some of the bigger differences in numbers. One thing I'll note is, Ross, you have Allen Robinson II, not Allen Robinson Sr. You have him ranked fourth overall. And Casey and I have him at 11. It's not like we don't like him, but
you know what? I just feel Chicago's going to be throwing the ball a lot. I'm expecting Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback eventually, not Andy Dalton. Justin Fields will throw the ball a lot and get a lot of guys open.
Yep.
And him and Mooney are going to have great years. I love Mooney too. If you want a sleeper this year, take Mooney, the second best receiver in Chicago. But I feel Allen Robinson's going to have a great year. I mean, I'm just talking about fantasy and stat wise.
No, I understand.
That's all I look at. That's all I'm looking at.
And listen, we're going to see the more years we do this together, we're going to see who's really getting these things right. And it'll be a mix, I'm sure. I'm going to look at some other numbers. Kenny Golladay, now the number one receiver with the Giants. I have him ranked lowest out of all of us. I have him at 34th overall. Casey has him 24th. Ross, you have him at 20th. I don't like the move from Detroit with Matthew Stafford to the Giants with Daniel Jones. To me, that's a downgrade of sorts.
I agree with that. I don't think it's necessarily an upgrade. And I worry, I mean, Galladay is missing right now because of hamstring issues in preseason, and he's never been the healthiest. I do think he's the clear-cut number one there. When he was in Detroit, there was Marvin Jones Jr. was there. There were other wide receivers who had to compete with just for catches. And he was seen kind of as that he's going to catch 3 receptions a game, but one of them is going to be 47 or 55 yards. And that's going to boost his numbers. I think he'll get more targets in New York. And so that's why I have him a little higher than you do.
All right. Let me ask
I mean, Daniel Jones, I said this before, I'm telling you right now, he's going to have a breakout year. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback.
Breakout year. You heard it here first.
And he was hurt last year. He should have been in the IL. He should have been playing last year. He had a torn muscle, and most quarterbacks should not be playing with that. He played anyway. This year he's healthy. I think Daniel Jones will be a top 10 guy, and you'll see him starting in a lot of fantasy teams. Mark my words.
I'm gonna call myself out because I'm going out on a limb on this one. It seems, but I don't know. Deebo Samuel is ranked 35th in Yahoo among receivers.
Yep.
Casey puts him at 51, so I think we're all down on Deebo Samuel comparatively. Casey has him 51. Ross ranks him at 62. I don't have him ranked. He's not ranked in my wide receivers. I don't see any reason to put him in there when the quarterback is not clear. He's never performed that well. He's injured all the time. I'm not sure why. Chris Atwater is making an observation, though, so let's jump in about that. He says, Dan and Casey don't seem to love Jamar Chase, but Ross the Boss does, and I agree with him. Okay, here's another outlier. I have Jamar Chase at 30. We can jump back to Deebo Samuel if you want to, but Jamar Chase, I have him the 33rd best wide receiver for the year. Ross has him at 16. Casey has him at 29. So Chris Atwater agrees with Ross. Ross, what are your thoughts on Jamar Chase? Why do you think he's going to be that good?
Oh, I mean, I mean, him and Burrow played together at LSU. They're so excited to play with each other, and they're going to be airing it out this year in Cincinnati. You'll be seeing all three of those guys, Boyd, Higgins, and Chase, are all going to have good years. I think you could see all three of those guys, and I think they'll get all three of the guys from over 1,000 yards, which is very gettable because if you think about it, if you get 1,000 yards, you're only averaging 64 yards a game, which isn't much, especially the 17-game season. So we'll probably see those three guys have over 1,000 yards this season. I think Chase will be leading the charge.
I think they're all going to be good, but I have Higgins as the best of the three in terms of
Higgins is great too. No argument.
Can I just point out that
I had to pick somebody.
that I'm a big fan of Atwater, but that clearly has an SEC bias, if you've noticed. I'm not
How
sure
dare you.
if he's from the South, but I would argue that he lives down there and loves SEC football, because we're talking Alabama, we're talking LSU.
He's brainwashed. He's brainwashed.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it. No, I agree with you that Jamar Chase is going to be good. If I'm in a dynasty league and I have a chance to get him, I think he's one of the best wide receivers to have. I just don't think this is the year he surpasses Higgins. I think he's going to equal with Boyd in my book. I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback and will be great. But it's been 2 years since he's thrown a pass to Jamar Chase. We're talking like they're buddies, but Jamar Chase sat out all of last season and has had the drops all preseason. And so yeah, I'm down on him a little bit.
I also think it's really the case that rookie wide receivers tend to start off slow. They do. They have a lot to learn in the game. The game is faster. The second half of the season, I think Jamar Chase could be an
I believe the rookie wide receiver to own this year is Devonta Smith. I mean, and to Chris out there, he's still an SEC guy, so you can still love him. It's fine.
Okay, and I actually am really not high on Devonta Smith because I think the Eagles never do very well with their wide receivers. I sometimes look at the systems and I call into question if it's a repeated thing. But I'm also going to repeat this. Last year, I had a lot to learn in fantasy football. I'm much better in fantasy baseball and fantasy basketball and even fantasy hockey. I found
there
out
you go.
I'm not so bad at. There it is.
No.
You knew it was coming. Fantasy football, I was much better last year thanks to you guys. But we're going to have to see just how good I am. It could be that
Did you guys see all those players really quick? I'm reading the news. All the players in Tennessee that tested positive for coronavirus.
No.
The coach, like all these players in Tennessee all have coronavirus.
Yeah.
All have the virus. It's unbelievable.
Well, and for fantasy purposes, you got to think about this. I mean, look, it's never good for anybody to have coronavirus, but is it actually good for their fantasy prospects that they're getting it now as opposed to during the season?
You're right. They'll get the antibodies. They'll at least have the antibodies for a while. They won't get the virus for at least like 6 or 8 weeks. You're right. That's a good analysis.
So, okay, we're not going to spend much time on kickers and defenses, at least not on this show.
Let's go to tight ends.
But let's go to tight end for a little bit. Let's talk about the outliers. Casey, what do you see when you look at mine and Ross's rankings, or even when you look back on your own rankings and you think, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Well, I think I'm a lot higher. Obviously, maybe not a lot, because from 4 to 9 or 10 isn't huge on TJ Hawkinson than either of you are. And my thinking about that is Jared Goff is not a vertical thrower. He's had a few games. He loves his tight ends. Look what he did with Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee in Los Angeles. He's going to throw to Hawkinson a lot, and we all know Hawkinson is super talented. So I have him as my 4th ranked tight end coming into this year. The other one that is kind of telling is we're all pretty big fans of Logan Thomas. We all have him in our top 7. Which was funny. And you guys are both a lot higher on Gronkowski than I am.
I just think Gronkowski has so much upside, and you saw in the Super Bowl, it was like he's just starting to click. I mean,
I agree. Yes.
He's a back end guy that you can get and could make a completely huge difference. I'm not saying he is going to outrank those people, but if you're choosing between him and Jonnu Smith, go with Rob Gronkowski. Jonnu Smith is not going to win you any leagues. Gronkowski really could. Now, there's a couple of ones that are jumping out at me. Dallas Goedert, I have him as my 7th overall. Casey has him as 9. Ross, you have him at 20. So I just wanted to hear your rationale for that. I'm not saying you're wrong about it, but
I really feel Ertz to Hurts. Like that Hurts. I really feel that Ertz is going to get more.
I see.
I worry about that too.
I just feel like Zach Ertz, the whole preseason and the whole offseason, they've been saying this guy wants to leave Philly. He never wanted to leave. He never did one tweet. He never talked once about being traded. They talked horrible about him. Everybody in the Philadelphia press said horrible things about him. He has that beautiful wife that's a soccer player that was in the Olympics.
Julie Ertz. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Very talented.
But what are the chances that they have the same last name?
It's unbelievable. But Hurts to Ertz, I just love that. I'm going to keep it. I just feel that I just feel that Ertz is going to be the main target there in Philadelphia.
All right, I'm going to comment on one more, but we have another observation from Chris Atwater. He said, I
I
noticed
love
in our
Atwater.
league, because Chris Atwater is in our league, in our
Love
MFSN
it.
league. He noticed in our league that I drafted the most rookies, Smith, Chase, and Harris. No regrets. Love them all.
Love
Listen,
it. Love it. I love the rookie. I love that.
All SEC guys.
yeah. And also,
love
I
it.
mean, as the season goes forward, those rookies are going to get stronger and stronger. But when you're talking about Najee
Great.
Harris, he's going to start off strong. That's great.
Big huge year.
One guy that I noticed is very different in our rankings. Ross and I agree on someone that Casey disagrees on is Robert Tonyan. So this is maybe a kind of polarizing player. For me, he's the tight end that Aaron Rodgers is throwing to. And that's all
Loves
I need
him.
to know.
Aaron loves the guy. I mean, Aaron said it in press conferences that that's his favorite target, except for, you know who. But he loves Tongatania. He loves the guy.
You said you know who, like Devontae Adams is Voldemort from Harry Potter. Or something. Don't say his name. Maybe you
Don't
just
say
said
it. Don't say it 3
He who
times.
shall not be mentioned.
Beetlejuice.
So,
Don't say it.
Casey, why do you have Robert Tonyan 14th overall?
When I was going through my rankings, it wasn't necessarily a diss on Robert Tonyan. I just liked some players better. He kind of came out of nowhere in week 4 or 5 last year and then carried the momentum through. If I'm looking back correctly, I don't remember there ever being a really impact since Shannon Sharp Sterling Sharp was Green Bay. Shannon Sharp was Denver. I don't remember there being a truly impactful tight end for Aaron Rodgers. And
Sterling Sharp, by the way, was a wide receiver.
He was a wide receiver, I know, but Shannon was the tight end. That's why I
Shannon's right. Correct.
and so he doesn't have a long history of putting, they took Jimmy Graham there for a while, didn't they? And he never did anything. They tried it with a bunch of different tight ends who suddenly were going to be the big difference for Aaron Rodgers. And I just never saw him look to tight ends that often. So that's why I knocked him down.
But I understand that, but here's a little counter argument and we'll wrap up on this. Tight end sucks. It always sucks. Once you get past a certain point, except for Kelsey and Waller is great. And Kit, listen, you can go, I would say top 5, and then there's a big cliff after Kyle Pitts. 100%. And you don't even know what Kyle Pitts is going to do.
No, I have no idea. I think I drafted him too. I have no idea.
So after that, though, you're really into Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan and Noah Fant. You don't know.
I mean,
how
the
these
gap
guys
between those guys is small.
Right.
Big
exactly.
B.
So I think these rankings are going to be interesting to discuss all year. I'm going to really look forward to the fact that every week we're going to have new rankings come out. And we might look back at these rankings and be like, please change them. I can't believe they're still on the site. It's so embarrassing. There's going to be some things that are embarrassing. And listen, I'm wearing a Browns shirt. Our jerseys are embarrassing. I fully admit it. And there's nothing I can do about it. But I love the Browns. I think they're going to have a good year. We've got a lot of great rankings to look at here. The season's coming closer, and we're going to continue these debates. We're going to be here for the same time next week. That's 4:45 Eastern on Thursdays, and we are going to keep it rolling.
Before we leave, do you want me to go over like the Super Bowl odds?
Oh, yes, let's do it.
Because I'm here.
Let's do it, unless you're going to have to walk to a different casino. Then don't do that.
There's no walking to another casino. Hold on, I'm looking for the NFL championship.
Listen, Ross, we should place some bets. I think it's time. Listen, I can't place a bet on the Browns winning the Super Bowl. That'll curse them.
Oh no!
How about I bet on the Browns and you bet on the Giants?
Oh God! Now I can't let you have the better odds there.
Hold on, guys. Hold on,
Ross. I don't think we have time for this. I'm sorry. I really want to do it, but I just don't know how long you're going to be. You're giving us no signs.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
10 seconds. You got 10 seconds. If you can't make it happen in 10 seconds, we're pulling the plug on this.
Pull any plug.
Now, meanwhile, Casey, while we're waiting,
here we go, guys.
Oh, you're here.
Here's odds. I got it. So the Chiefs are 5-1. They're the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. Okay, the Chiefs are the favorites. Okay, the Packers are 11-1. And then the Bills, I'm going to bet the Bills to win the Super Bowl. That's 11-1. I think they're the best odds right now. They're my team that I think can win it. Let's talk about Casey's Giants, 65-1.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Wow.
The Browns are 12-1.
I was going to say.
Which isn't that great. Wait, yeah, that's not that great. But to win the AFC, the Browns are 6-1,
Oh God,
and
that's
the
scary.
Giants are 35-1 to win the AFC championship. And my Bengals are to win the Super Bowl. The Bengals are, where are the Bengals?
They didn't even rate them.
Shouldn't even be.
The
Shouldn't be that
Bengals
hard
are
to find.
125-1 to win the Super Bowl.
Wow. I didn't think they were worse than the Giants.
They
Hold on,
aren't.
keep talking. Hold on, let me just flip the page. They have all this they have all the over-unders with like wins and losses and all this stuff.
Well, bring
We're
the
gonna do a
paper home
second
so we
show
can
on all
talk
this.
about it next
They have
time.
the NFL
All right.
Offensive Rookie of the Year. Trevor Lawrence is 11-5.
Listen, Ross, tease this for the next show because we're gonna bring in all the odds next time, and then we're gonna have you go back out to Vegas and play some bets for us.
That's right.
I'll probably make some bets and I'll probably text you guys and see what you guys want.
I'll tell you what, text us. We will then announce what bets we made on the next week's show. Guys, this was great. Chris Atwater's thanking us for a great show. Thank you, Chris, for a great show. You contributed to it. Guys, it's been great working with you on this. We're going to continue as the season goes. Oh, we get a little glimpse of the odds there. That's good. Rewind that if you need to. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally. And go to www.mfsn.tv if you want to see these rankings or you want to see our shows.
And make fun of us. We're fine with that.
Make fun of us. We're ready. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, yeah. From Kill Cliff, the #1 clean energy drink in the mind of Joe Rogan, comes the Flamin' Joe. Sugar-free, B vitamins, electrolytes, all them good drink things. An epic spicy pineapple fusion from out of this world, straight into your drink hole. Own it. Kill Cliff.